this traffic jam, dreaming of the green pastures I once ran.
Hello again. I'm Miles DeMott. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Stuck in Traffic. It's all about Brevard, North Carolina. And today we are joined by Allison Taylor, who wears a number of hats in this wonderful community. Welcome, Allison, and thanks for joining us, and thanks for agreeing to be stuck in traffic. It's not nearly as laborious as I make it sound. It can be a fun experience, and I hope that is for us today as well. Tell us, what do you do in Brevard, where you wear a lot of hats?
I currently do wear a lot of hats. So I own two businesses, WNC Weddings and Events, which is primarily wedding and event planning, and Skillful Solutions, where I primarily do corporate retreat planning, team building activities, and some consulting. And then the other big hat that I wear is... It's
a big heavy metal hat from time to time.
Yes, I volunteer as an assistant fire chief at North Transylvania Fire Rescue.
How in the world did you get interested in that? I mean, were you sitting at home one day and said, damn, if I could only be a fire chief?
So I never aspired to climb the ranks. I grew up hiking and backpacking here and love the outdoors. And I realized that search and rescue is primarily run through our local fire rescue departments. And I was kind of at the tail end of a failing abusive marriage, and had a bad, troubling incident where I basically got a freebie, and my freebie was to go join the fire department, is what I chose to do with that freebie. And turned out, I became a single mom pretty soon after with a 8-year-old son who got dragged along with me to trainings, and had a lot of great male father figures essentially at the station, and just continued to kind of plug in there and work my way up.
And you enjoy the work?
I love it.
Your focus is search and rescue, or do you?
No, I do. I joined it primarily for search and rescue, but I found out that I really like crawling around in a burning building with fire rolling overhead, and cutting apart cars is pretty fun.
I think there's a diagnosis in there, and we'll come back to that.
We get to play with a lot of big tools and big trucks, and like most firefighters will tell you, it's the greatest job in the world. That a lot of us do it for no pay, just because it's pretty gratifying to be able to serve the community and to help others when they're having the worst day of their lives.
So, thank you for that. Thank you for your service. The decision was made for you to live here because you grew up here.
I did. So my parents moved here a year before I was born to work at Camp Eagle's Nest, so one of the many summer camps in the area, and raised my brother and I here. My parents are still here. My brother is just over the line in Buncombe County, and kind of grew up here swearing that I would leave and never come back, and then realized that there aren't a lot of places in the world where you can hike literally out your back door. So,
and this is one of them.
Yes, this is one of them. And I like to hike most days of the week, and I really can't imagine being somewhere where that wasn't an option.
Is your son still at home?
He actually just last weekend, I moved him as a transfer student into Raleigh to NC State for engineering.
Go Wolfpack.
Yep.
Speaking of engineering, Boy Wonder here has told me that your father was an engineer and used to put stuff together for famous people. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So my dad had started an electronics manufacturing business called Cytronics that primarily built printed circuit board assemblies for medical and industrial electronics. And I became a manager and an owner in that business. And Bob Moog with,
synthesizers.
The synthesizers, yes. So we used to do the assembly on the Theremins and Mooger Foogers and some of the various different products that they had.
So you were proximate to fame and fortune.
I don't know about all that.
You were kind of in somebody else's game.
Yeah.
Making stuff that was important to them.
Yep.
Huh. So you've obviously chosen to stay here.
Yes.
Why is that? You've mentioned you can hike out your back door and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
But it's still got a town to it. It's still got, it's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny, like some of the things growing up here, you couldn't get away with anything because somebody'd always tell your mama and daddy that you were up to no good.
I hate to tell you, but that still works that way, I think.
And then having a kid here, I really loved that. Like I would, when my son was younger, I would get pictures that friends would send of him maybe like out at Bracken Mountain Bakery with a girl. And so I loved that I had this whole community of stalkers keeping an eye on my kid for me. So some of the things that weren't so desirable growing up here were actually quite desirable raising a child here, and got to be kind of neat. In school, he had teachers that were he had teachers that were my teachers in school here, but he also had teachers that I graduated school with. And, it's a great community. And it was a little bit more narrow-minded, not as diverse growing up. And my family was a little bit more liberal. And so that was challenging in some ways, but the diversity here has changed for the better, and obviously kind of the arts and culture and music, and there
seems to be a lot of that.
Yes, the whole community scene has shifted in ways that I think are for the better.
On a side note, we should remember when we transcribe this issue that it should be, it takes a village, parentheses, of stalkers, because that was the term she used. So, but only when dealing with parenting issues. So it's a lovely town. Of all the cultural offerings, what part is your favorite?
So the cultural offerings, probably live music would have to be the one that really takes the cake. It really does.
That's one of the reasons I moved here, is because there seems to be, and it's not just, Maddie and Cody across the street at 185. It's there's live music is a thing here.
It is. And, again, back to kind of that diversity, that growing up, the music center was here, and there were kind of the more classical music offerings through there. Well, that's even expanded since then, but also too, just rock and funk and, pretty much any type of music style you can think of. There is just a world of music here at our fingertips.
In a town of 8,000 to 10,000 people.
Yes. And world-class music, not just,
Right. So, and this was brought up in passing in the pre-show, and I don't know if it was a joke. If this was a joke, Boy Wonder, you can cut this out. Tell me about your work with the Vagina Dialogues.
Vagina monologues.
Oh, yes. I guess it would be a monologue. The dialogue is, okay.
So for those that aren't familiar with the Vagina monologues, the purpose of it is to raise funds and awareness to combat sexual and domestic violence against women. And I had read the book, which is just a collection of stories that have kind of been patched together by the author, Eve Ensler, and have been kind of put into production. And so I'd read that you could stage a production to raise funds and awareness for a local organization. So I initially chose SAFE here in Brevard, and then Help Made up in Asheville. So I was doing dual shows in Brevard and Asheville for a couple of years. And it is, it's got some monologues that are hilarious and a lot of foul language, and then some that are really difficult too. But it's, again, kind of helping spread that diversity in Transylvania County that's a little bit more conservative. So the word vagina
can be problematic.
Yeah, it didn't go over so great amongst some members of the community, but we had a great turnout every year that we did it here.
Right.
And the reason why the word vagina is used, that I like to explain, is that for a woman being abused, she needs to be comfortable using the terminology. And for somebody helping somebody that has been abused, they need to be comfortable hearing that terminology.
Well, thank you for those efforts. Did you grow up doing theater?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Dancing, though. My mother was a dance teacher in Brevard.
How big was Brevard population-wise when you were growing up?
That's a really good question. I don't know for sure, but our graduating class, I think, was just over 100. And I don't really know that it has grown a whole lot since then. But the retirement population, second home population has definitely grown.
Yeah, and I don't think the population has grown either. It's 8,000 to 10,000, but I think it was either at that number when both plants were still active, and I think the population dropped, and I think it's working its way back. It had to make up ground. So, as a small business owner, are you excited about the economic opportunities in Brevard, or if not? Or let's just answer it. Are you excited about them?
Yeah, I mean.
And what are you most excited about? Why do you operate a bit, other than to make, Duke Power wants its money, but
yeah.
Other than that, why did you start businesses here?
So, I'd been working with the electronics manufacturing business, and quite frankly, I just got tired of being stuck inside a metal building every day and was looking for alternate options. And I had started kind of the consulting business because I really do enjoy consulting for manufacturing business, evaluating and establishing systems and procedures is kind of how that started. But then was a young, had a young child as a single mom, and that was going to require a little bit more travel. So then I was kind of looking for additional options, and had a friend, Etherly Schultz, that owns Fluorescence Flowers, had said, have you ever considered being a wedding planner? And I was like, well, I did some marketing and event planning right out of college, and I think I could probably do that. So I started researching and seeing that there was a niche to be filled, and
in this,
and event planning, and the firefighting might suggest that I'm not a real girly girl, so I didn't really know a lot about that whole the whole fluffy side of weddings, but I
fluffy
really
side. And so you, let me stop you there and say you wouldn't self-describe as a girly girl.
No, not at all. I probably am more comfortable covered in mud and in the woods than I am dressed up.
That's an interesting image for a wedding planner, but keep going with the wedding planning and the event planning thing.
Yeah, it requires a lot of detail, a lot of organization and logistics. And, I joke that kind of you put out virtual fires versus putting out literal fires.
Right.
And calming chaos is really what it is. And so it takes kind of a special person to be able to do that. Plus the days are often very long and physically demanding, which I very much enjoy.
Okay. Long and physically demanding. Oh, that's interesting. So have you ever considered leaving Brevard?
Yeah, I especially a little bit more so now with kind of the political climate in the country. I do enjoy traveling. I love the idea of being in a little village somewhere where you walk to the local bakery and what's for dinner is just whatever happens to be fresh. And,
right.
But I gotta have mountains out the back door.
Austria. Have you thought about Austria?
I've dipped into the very southern part of Austria briefly, spent a couple of weeks in Slovenia, loved Slovenia, which is the southern border.
Right.
Love Central and South America. And,
so you've traveled a lot.
I try to budget for that and make that happen. But
so when you come back to Brevard from traveling to Slovenia and South America and all these exotic places, does it feel like home?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been my home for all of my life. And, I think of for people that know the area, I live out in Pisgah Forest, and driving over a little mountain to come into town, every time I see that view, it's always a happy view every day, even if it's every day. The views here never get old, and my family laughs because I don't tend to be a very emotional person, but I'll get teared up like it's just so pretty if we're up on the parkway, or it really is. Having traveled a lot, we are very fortunate to have so many public lands in Transylvania County, and the beauty that we have here. It's the same thing that kind of everybody else talks about, to be in an area with over 250 waterfalls, to have so much acreage that is maintained as public lands for public access, and the diversity of activities that can be hosted in those public lands. It's,
stuff to beat.
It is. And that's, there's a lot of free entertainment with that, which is why we can save to travel.
Right. So of all the places you've traveled, what's your favorite place?
Probably Slovenia.
And what did you like about it more than the others?
It's the most forested country in the world.
I didn't know that.
And they are, the way that they kind of approach the environment, they have some kind of cool things like I'm not a big city girl, but the capital city is kind of like a little Asheville. It's not huge, but they have something that they do when they clean out the river in town, and they stack all of the litter that they pull out, and they leave it to kind of shame people for like a month to not litter.
Wow.
So just kind of some of those approaches, and then just the lack of plastics, the lack of disposables in general, the fresh food just is amazing. And the cost of fresh foods is so much more affordable that I have found being in other countries than it is here. And, landscaping that's edible, like different plum trees and fruits growing that you could kind of eat all afternoon off of these edible plants. And
instead of edibles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plants instead of edibles.
Yeah.
So if you were, since you're a small business owner, and you wanted to wanted to bring another business to town, looking out over the landscape. What does Brevard need?
A good little Indian restaurant.
Do we have an Indian food truck?
Occasionally.
Yeah, but a good Indian restaurant. So we already have Thai, Korean.
Yeah.
So we have some diversity there,
Yes.
Striking diversity for a town of 8 to 10,000 people. So a good Indian restaurant.
Yes, that
Have you thought about opening one?
Oh, no.
No. Why not?
Not into the restaurant business. That's
Okay. We should have talked to John about that.
Yeah.
Remind me to get back to John about opening another restaurant. He was very successful with
but
the
I'm
previous.
more than happy to sample.
Right. Food testing.
Yes.
Yeah. That's always pretty good. So of all the physical activities that you can do in and around Brevard, you like to hike? What else do you do?
Yes. So hiking is really kind of my primary, and distance hiking is my favorite.
What is distance hiking?
I've had some health issues over the past couple of years, so that's taken a little bit of a dip, but I like to hike distances of, 10 to 20 miles plus in a day hike. So I've done the Arlobe Trail in a day, which is 31 miles and a lot of elevation gain. It's a very challenging trail. I just love to be in the woods, and I most frequently prefer to go by myself. And it's just, to me, like I say with, all the things that I have going on, it's like the hamsters in my head are going crazy, and then I can get on the trail and it puts them back on the wheel again. So it's great thinking time. I don't, people that want to listen to their earbuds in the woods.
Right.
I like to have that headspace time. It's a great time to problem solve. It's a great time to kind of put things into perspective, and whatever you might be stressed about, to maybe realize that it doesn't need to be so stressful. To me, it's very calming, and I really like to push my body. And it's pretty amazing to me what our bodies can do. And, just kind of putting one foot in front of the other, I think, is a really good metaphor for life, that whether you've got 30 miles in front of you or a mile in front of you, you still just have to put one foot in front of the other. It doesn't matter how difficult those miles are.
Do you remember the abominable snowman? At the Christmas cartoon that's coming in, the abominable, and they sing the song, put one foot in front of the other, blah, blah, blah. And that's how, that's how they get going, I guess. So, yeah. So that was going to be a really funny joke, but it didn't really work out.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of
cultural
TV.
references can be so tough.
Growing up in a little rural town, we lived out in the woods where we didn't have television. So I grew up most of my life without television.
So do you remember Laura Ingalls Wilder? Because you must have grown up in the same neighborhood.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah. She was in the little house on the prairie next to you. Yeah. So Brevard College, you said you were an early graduate of Brevard College, and being only 37 years old, that's really an amazing thing for me to think about. But and they had just gone co-ed. Tell me about that experience.
No, that was not.
Or they just gone 4 years.
4 years.
Okay,
yes.
Tell me about that.
So my mom actually worked at Brevard College. She owned Brevard Ballet School, so she taught ballet, and then she taught other athletic classes: swimming, lifeguarding, aerobics. And so with a parent working at Brevard College, you get to go for free, which is very nice.
Yeah.
I was able to take my entire senior year of high school at Brevard College because I had met all of my curriculum requirements, except for one class that I was able to transfer back. So I had started there for my associate's degree. When I got my associate's, they had not yet gone for a year, except for maybe in arts, music, something that I wasn't interested in pursuing. So I briefly transferred to UNCA in Asheville as a biology major, and then Brevard went for a year in environmental studies. And so I came back because with the parent discount, it was cheaper for me to go to Brevard College than it was for me to go to UNCA.
Right.
And I went on to become the first graduate in the environmental program at Brevard College.
Even as I'm saying this, asking this question, it sounds stupid, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why were you drawn to environmental? You knew even then that environmental science sort of stuff, conservation, all that sort of stuff was going to be important for you.
Yeah. So I had originally chosen biology because I've always kind of struggled with sitting still very well and learning from reading about something rather than doing it. So I really liked biology because you could kind of cut stuff open and look at it. And I feel like I'm more of a tactile learner. And then when Brevard went for a year environmental studies, I was like, well, that's close to biology, and I, having grown up in our outdoor environment, I really liked the idea of trying to kind of affect some positive environmental changes. But then after graduating, I found that those jobs tend to be in places like Raleigh where you can't hike out your back door. So I chose to stay and pursue different different careers.
So one of which, again, is the assistant fire chief?
Yes.
What is the most exciting part of that job, and what's the least exciting part of that job?
Well, the most exciting part is really truly being able to help somebody when they're really having a bad day. And I still, as much as I love, fire departments have kind of become a catch-all. So we respond to medical emergencies, car accidents, trees.
Kittens in the trees, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Trees down, structure fires, wildfires. Obviously our response during like Hurricane Helene, the wildfires. It's very busy, but search and rescue is still my absolute favorite. And one of my most memorable rescues was a couple of Boy Scouts that probably would not have survived the night from hypothermia when we got to them in a really remote area. It was extremely physically demanding. And the boys were about the same age as my son. And so just kind of that, thinking about that and being able to bring another child home. And I still kind of follow one of those kids who's now, kind of into his early adult years, and being able to see what his life has become that might not have been the case had we not been able to affect that rescue. So those are pretty special moments, or the full arrest that we're actually able to revive, and to see those people still continue to be out living is pretty amazing. The downside to it is the paperwork. The administrative side is the bane of my existence.
I bet. There's a lot of it.
Yes, all the requirements and regulations, and then, trying to work within the budgets, and, trying to not have to raise taxes for the taxpayers, but still being able to try to provide the service. It's a lot. And
there was a moment, and again, I'm relatively new to Brevard, and I may get all of this wrong, but there is a moment or a movement afoot to combine county and city. Am I getting this right? County and city services?
No.
So the county is different from the city.
Correct. Yes. So the county departments, the city is separate. The county departments are all funded through, we're independent fire departments. So like my department is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we submit our budget request to the county commissioners, and the county commissioners will then approve or deny our budget based on what we submit, or make any changes that they request. And then obviously that is funded through the county tax base.
And the city is funded by the city. Correct. Yeah. So what am I, and again, I may be getting, is there not an effort to try to combine those, or am I just misreading all of that?
Yeah, not that's on the table that I know of.
Huh, that's interesting.
You might be thinking of schools.
Are they? Okay. That may be it. Okay. Well, I'm out of questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I mean, I just think that we need to keep doing what we can to protect our public lands, because they really, truly are what bring people here and what keep many of us here too. And I think that Brevard we're all very lucky to live in such a beautiful place. And
we are that.
Yeah.
And do you feel now more than ever that the public lands are sort of in turmoil or threatened or whatever?
I think they're more threatened than they've been in my lifetime.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know that I would disagree with you on that. And I don't know, other than voting and lobbying and all, I don't know how we could change that. But it's been said that Brevard is sort of the donut hole, because we are surrounded by what I think is about 1.5 million acres of somebody else's tree farm. Mm-hmm. And it does seem to be, most of our guests have commented on that to say that, yeah, this is the part of the magic of the place.
Yeah, it is absolutely. And again, not only did I grow up hiking and backpacking, but I grew up rock climbing and teaching rock climbing, and, whether you want to mountain bike or fish or paddle, I mean, there just is kind of endless opportunities in the woods. And again, aside from the equipment, especially those mountain bikes that people spend their money on, for me, hiking, it's free. Like, it's being a single mom, I've had to be very frugal and save, but we never were bored because we had so much playground at our fingertips. So
playground at the fingertips. Yeah. It's an interesting way to look at it. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for agreeing to be stuck in traffic. Again, it's been Allison Taylor, wears many hats in the Brevard community. Thank you for joining us and getting stuck in traffic. It's been another wonderful episode, and we'll bring more to you. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm stuck here in this traffic jam, dreaming of the green pastures I once ran. The road ahead's a snail's slow dance. This highway's robbed me of my chance.